the presentation today is on instructional communication, language, and communication skills. So we are moving on to what is communication. Communication is the act of active listening for better connection and stronger relationship. If you look at this definition of communication, communication is the glue that binds people together in a relationship that is supposed to be dynamic and productive, aimed at achieving a desired goal. And that is why it is surprising to hear this definition, because communication has little or so to do with speaking. And it is the act of active listening for better connection and stronger relationship. So if there is a relationship deficiency in your organization, it means there's something wrong with communication in that organization. If there's relationship deficiency in your marriage, in your home, check the communication lines. There's something wrong with it. And that is the definition is so pregnant. We'll be deliberating it along the line, and I want us to look at that critically. Communication is a process or act of transmitting or passing information, thoughts, ideas, understanding from one person to another. It is the process of imparting ideas and making oneself understood by others until the intention for which your communication is initiated is properly understood in the fashion and manner by what you intended by the other person. Communication has not taken place. That is very important. No matter how beautiful you probably decorate your sentences or your words, if it is not understood by the person who intends to carry out an action based on the understanding of your communication, communication has not taken place. Very important. Then communication has a process. In the communication process, the sender, also called the encoder, encodes the message, and then using a medium or channel called a channel, he sends it to a receiver, who is also called the decoder, who decodes the message. And after processing the information cognitively, the receiver sends back an appropriate feedback or reply using a medium or a channel. That is the standard communication channel or process. Please, there are some keywords there I want us to deliberate. I want to digest a little. Let me repeat the definition and I'll hammer on those keywords. Number one, let me start. I said in the communication process, the sender, also known as the decoder, the word I want us to emphasize the encoder. The encoder encodes the message and then using a medium or a channel, sends it to a receiver. The receiver is also technically known as the decoder, who decodes the message. And after processing the information in his cognitive structure, the receiver sends back an appropriate feedback or reply using a medium or a channel. With this definition, the first word that I want to look at is the encoder. To encode a message is different from hearing a message. You can hear a message without being able to decode it. For instance, someone can speak in a language that you understand, but if you fail to decode the implicit meaning of what the person is communicating, you've missed it all. That is why we have what we call denotation and connotation meanings in communication. Let me repeat that. We have denotation and connotation meanings in communication. Your ability to decode is what gives you right to interpret and then send a reply appropriate to the information received. For instance, if I speak English that all of us understand, and I call my good friend, Irenius, and then said, "Oh, Irenius, and I'm talking around 12 o'clock noon, and I said, Irenius, the whole day I've not washed my face." This is plain English language I have spoken that he understands. But it takes another dimension of cultural, conceptual, familiarity to then understand what I have just said. That I have not washed my face. I'm speaking to him at 12 o'clock noon, and I'm telling him that I have not washed my face the whole day. Anyone listening to me belonging to a particular culture will know that I'm not talking about just using water to wash my face. Because if you are coming from, let's say, the Upper West area, if someone speaks like this, the person is speaking proverbially. The person is saying that he has not taken alcohol the whole day after the time he's speaking. That's why he's saying that I have not washed my face since morning. So if I am speaking to a group of people constituting probably 100, and I have 20 people coming from Upper West, understanding that have a cultural common understanding of such a concept. They are the only people that will decode the meaning of what I have said, what I meant by I have not washed my face since morning. They will quickly interpret to mean I have not taken some alcohol the whole day. But anyone that is outside this culture, and for that matter, do not have this concept well understood in their culture, will interpret to mean to mean that I have not actually washed my face with water, and how can an outdoor like you getting up early in the morning after 12 o'clock and you haven't washed your face? That's how they will interpret it literally. So that is the decoding process. You need to go beyond the linguistic meaning of the surface of the word or the phrase to enable you decode. That's very important. So when they decode that, when I say something like this, and Mr. Ansel decodes it, and then he responds by saying, "What happened? You didn't go out the whole day," meaning because I have not moved out the whole day, I have not taken. So we are communicating, and the understanding is established. That is why in every teaching and facilitation endeavor, you normally want to actually identify what we call the key concept of, for example, if you are teaching children comprehension, what you do is that you come out with, you take out the key concept, we call them keywords. Drill the children through the keywords. Drill them on their understanding of the keywords. Why? Is the rationale behind this is that when they understand the keywords of the passage, the key concept of the passage, understanding the whole passage becomes very easy. So you take the keywords or the key concepts out, make sure the children understand the key concepts, so that when you are taking them through the reading comprehension, they are able to understand the whole comprehension passage easily. Very important. Now, communication skills. Communications, we have 4 main communication skills. And out of these communications, four main communication skills, the most important of all communication skills has to do with listening. Please get this once and for all. Listening is the most important component in communication. And that is why our first explanation of the meaning of communication goes like this. That it is the act of active listening for better connection and stronger relationship. If you take listening out of communication, communication is paralyzed forever. Let me repeat that. If you take listening out of communication, communication is truncated. So listening takes 45% of the whole communication process. Yet it is the most absent element in our today's communication, resulting in confusion, misunderstanding, misinterpretation, misconstruing, and misinformation, and then that's why there are quarrels, fighting, wars all over. I can assure you that 80% of the wars, 80% of the fightings, 80% of the quarrels that we witness in our homes and our country and in the world are all as a result of miscommunication, misinterpretation, misconstruing, and all that. That's why everyone these days, you begin a communication and everyone is communicating and talking at the same time. No one is listening to the other. At the family level, the wife begins a sentence and the husband jumps to conclusion, straight away, without actually, having the patience to listen to what the woman is saying, and there's confusion. The husband begins something, and the wife jumps to conclusion and then begins speaking. So everyone is speaking at the same time, and no one has the patience to listen to the other. That's why there's always confusion there's confusion even at the organizational level. So listening takes 45%. Then writing takes 9% of the whole communication process. Speaking takes only 30%, and then reading takes 6%. So the most important skill to develop by any individual who is interested in effective communication is, first of all, to learn how to listen. Let me repeat that. The most important skill to develop in a person who is desiring to learn effective communication is listening. That is why even at the school level, if a child listening capacity is derailed, the child will suffer academically in every endeavor of life. And that is why it is the responsibility, the professional responsibility of every facilitator or teacher, that when you are presenting to a group of people, you first of all make sure that listening, the atmosphere is conducive enough for listening, and listening is ascertained and established before you begin to communicate. Very important. Please, some of us, by virtue of the way we handle our children in the house, we have destroyed this particular element of their capacity to listen. If you are someone who shouts at your children anyhow, and who frighten your children with your presence, and who terrorize them with some kind of harsh words, they begin to fear you. So that when you even call them to give them instructions, their mind goes back to the possibility of you beating or lashing them. So they look into your face as you are speaking. You may think they are listening to you attentively, but you will finish and ask them, and they don't know what you are talking about. You call a child and give him instruction to go to the kitchen, open the fridge, and bring in milk. The child listen to you attentively, looking at you intently, and listen to you attentively. Then he goes back, he goes into the kitchen and bring you, and before you realize, he brings you a spoon. Then when he comes, and then you shout at him and say, "You eat when I was with you to go bring me milk." Then the child shivers. You are actually worsening the situation of the child in his listening capacity. Such a child will go to the classroom when the teacher is teaching. He will be looking into the eyes of the teacher as if he's the most attentive. Meanwhile, right after communicating, when you ask a child what the teacher says, he's at sea. Please, I am saying this. All of us are parents. If you have your child suffering from such a thing, please, it is better to address it now. If not, it's going to affect the academic growth of the child from now onwards. How do you address it? You have not shown love to some extent. You have made a child to fear you by your presence and by your speech. So what you do is that call the child. When a child comes, when you send a child to go and bring you something, he goes and brings a different thing because he didn't understand you. Don't shout at the child. Call him and say, "Oh, Peter, listen to me. I understand you are one of the most brilliant chaps in the school. Even if you have not heard that from anybody, please tell the child this. You want to condition the child, the man of the child, to accept and to not believe that you are a humble husband, a humble parent who is willing, who is after his welfare, and you want to help him out of this situation. So your teachers have been telling me you are such a wonderful boy. Now, I want you to go and do this for me from the kitchen. Listen to me, wrap attention. And the child will listen. Then you speak systematically. Don't rush over the words. You say, Peter, go into the kitchen. Open the fridge. You will see a tin of milk. Bring it to me. When the child goes and follows the instruction you have given him exactly and brings the milk, you say, wow, Peter, thanks so much. You are such an attentive, brilliant boy. The child, for the first time, will smile and laugh. He will smile because he is known to getting frightened in your presence. Now you are bringing him down to the level for him to understand that you are someone who is after his welfare. Praise the child for obeying and giving and following the instructions as communicated. Please. And when you do this for a number of times, the child knows very well that he gets rewarded by following exactly instructions given. And because of that, when you anytime at all you call him to give him instructions, the child will listen with rapt attention. And when that is fully developed, he go to school and when the teacher is teaching, he is at all ears. And he listens with rapt attention, follow the instructions of the teacher, and before you realize the child is excelling academically. This is critical, please. It's important. Now, we'll move on to this. So listening is actually a receptive profile dimension. In fact, we have two dimensions in as far as communication skills are concerned. We have what we call the receptive profile dimension. Receptive means receiving. Receptive profile dimension. And we also have what we call and let me go on with the receptive profile dimension. So listening and reading are all receptive. You are receiving information. So listening is a receptive profile dimension. Listening is the act of paying attention to sound or what is being communicated. Listening requires a conscious effort and a desire to make meaning from what is being communicated. You see, listening is work. Please take it up today. Listening is work. That's why it is a conscious effort and a desire to make meaning from what is being communicated. There's a clear distinction between listening and hearing. In fact, people will hear you but may not listen to you. And when they don't listen to you, they don't understand. And whatever they don't understand, you can be sure they cannot give you appropriate feedback. Teachers and the students must be good listeners, because what happens is that at a point, teaching and facilitation is a two-way dimension. The teacher communicates, the facilitator communicates, and the learners or the participants receive and give a feedback. So until we have that dynamic interaction and exchange, you cannot have understanding established. Listening is a sign of humility and the wish to get involved. So that's why if you are speaking to someone and the person is not listening to you, for example, I come to your office and then you are busy on your laptop, and I have come to explain, so you are a director, you are an HR officer, you are a headmaster, or you are a teacher, you are a doctor, you are a lawyer. A client comes to your facility and then you present a case. Then you are on your laptop and then he greets you. He said, how are you? And said, he's fine. And he said, what is it? Then while you are saying what is it, you are busy typing on your laptop. And you keep on saying, You're not even looking to the text. It's a sign of arrogance. The person goes out from your office with a different mentality about you altogether. You are not someone who is willing, they'll say you don't respect, you're not someone who is willing to help, and it doesn't show humility. So the moment someone comes, a client, for example, or a customer comes into your listen, or a participant comes around to clarify things from you, close the laptop, look into him, look into his face intently, and then as he speaks, you listen aggressively. Please, the word is aggressive. Aggressive listening means as the person is talking, you keep on encouraging and motivating the person to talk and give you more details of what he's supposed to communicate. You say, wow, is that what happened? You mean that? That is aggressive listening. So, and now when the person says something that you want to get more emphasis, you said, you mean you didn't eat for 5 days? You want to get an emphasis on the issue of not eating for 5 days, and that will enable you make a case. So you repeat issues that are of importance to let the person know that you are actually listening and taking notes. That's very important. You see, if you do this in your home, what every woman desires in life is to have the husband listen to her when she is speaking. When what every man desires in the family is to have the wife having the patience to listen to him when he's speaking. And I can assure you that alone is going to serve as a cement that will concretize your relationship. Very important. Then we have things that improve listening. They are serene environments. So if you have an important message to deliver to someone, make sure the environment is appropriate. In fact, you can't say you have some serious matters to discuss with me, and then probably I've just closed from work, and probably it's weekend, and the whole young man is at the sport chilling, and you call me and I said, oh, I'm at this place. You come around and you have this important message to deliver to me. I'm sitting with my colleagues. You call me out already. My mind is already in chilling mood, and then you begin to I may pay attention, but the attention is pretentious, please. The attention may be pretentious. I'm only hurrying for you to finish. I'll get, okay, is that what happened? But I'm not actually listening. I'm not taking in. Why? I want you to just finish saying what you want to say and go so that I can continue with my chilling. So please, serene environment is very important. Number 2, the time and the audibility is important. How you present it is important. The length of the message is critical. Knowledge of the importance of what is being communicated is paramount. Then arrangement of facts from easy to difficult is necessary. Then the demeanor and the personality of the communicator is as vital as anything. And then the eye contacts, please. Eye contacts. You cannot be speaking to someone with your back to the person. No, you can't be speaking to someone and be looking somewhere else. Ladies and gentlemen, we are taking our time as an organization to go through this because I must be very frank with you. Any relationship, whether at the family level, at the organizational level, at the party level, that last communication will perish. Let me repeat that again. Any relationship, or let me just put it this way, communication is to a relationship as a vegetable is to water. Let me repeat that. That analogy is critical, and that will be more graphic. I said communication is to relationship as water is to a vegetable. Any vegetable, if you starve vegetable of water for 6 months, that vegetable will die, will wither and die. If you start any dynamic, any relationship of communication for a period of time, that particular relationship will suffer terribly. Now, factors that impede listening: divided attention, the way the teacher or the facilitator dresses, the environment, the noise, ignorance of the importance of the message being communicated. When the participants are ignorant of the importance of the communication, the message that is being communicated, their listening is impaired. That is why every presentation, the facilitator takes his time to take you through the objective of the course or the topic that is meant to arouse your interest regarding the importance of the topic. And when that is aroused, listening is assured. So, in cases where the student or the participants do not have adequate knowledge of the importance of the message being delivered, communication will be impaired. Then we also have zero reward for listening. For instance, those of us who are teachers, when a student who is developing this skill of attentive listening, he listens very well to you or your lecture or your teaching, and after the lesson, you design questions that are different from what you taught, and the child scores 0. When a child consistently scores 0, no matter how attentive he is in the classroom, you are impeding the listening capacity of the child. Why? He will begin to assume that no matter how hard I try to listen, I get 0. So there's no reward for listening, and such a child will not be motivated to keep on listening. The same way, if participants get themselves prepared to listen to you, and then you come on board and begin to deliver in a manner that probably is not a good start for the participant, straight away, I can assure you, listening will be destroyed. Group discussion, and I want to discuss the strategies you usually employ in your organization, the classroom, or among your staff members to win and sustain your students or staff or the participants' attention throughout your lesson. Most of us, I know, have ever engaged in facilitation. Most of us have ever engaged in presentation. And the essence and the one cardinal interest of every facilitator is to get the attention of your participants. What strategy do you employ to get the attention of your students or your participants? Raise up your hand and share with us, and just 1 or 2 or 3, and we'll proceed.
Mr. Arafat.
Yeah, I think as a teacher, intermittently, I'll ask my students, do you understand? Are we together? And sometimes we even mention the name of specific individual, whether they are following and understanding what we are telling them.
To me, what I use is that sometimes when I'm teaching in the classroom and there are noise in the classroom, I usually use either class exercise or class test to actually control their noise in the classroom.
Yeah, Williams. Yeah, I have sometimes used direct eye contact with anybody that is looking elsewhere or talking. Then I walk towards the person. So I move around while presenting the lesson. So whoever that is not paying attention, I walk towards you or I stand and mention your name.
Okay, thank you. I am not a teacher. I'm a human resource manager.
Fantastic.
So we usually do presentations.
Good.
And how we try to win and then get our participants' attention is by making these presentations participatory. We make them understand that at every point in time, if any of them have a view or a suggestion, they are always welcome, and no view or contribution is wrong. So if you feel there is something you need to draw attention to, it's allowed. We don't make the presentations too rigid that people are afraid to give their views or to make contributions as we go on. That's the strategy we use.
Brilliant strategy. Brilliant strategy. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Arimiya Mustafa.
Okay, thank you very much. Me, what I do in classroom to draw the attention of my people is that I will pause and then ask questions based on what I was teaching. So and I will point at those I thought were not paying attention. I will point at them to answer the question. So in doing that, I will draw their attention. I think that is what I do. Thank you.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Yes, next person.
Madam Agnes Dakura.
Yes, what I normally do is that if I see that there's noise or people are not paying attention at a particular corner, I swap their seats. And then those who are still misbehaving, I make them repeat what have been said. If the attention is still not there, sometimes I make some of them stand at the back as a way of drawing their attention to my class. I think these are some of the strategies I use. Thank you.
Awesome, awesome one. So awesome, beautiful.
Yes, so for me, when I ask questions in class, normally I don't I don't always point at those who raise up their hands only, but I call on anyone randomly to answer the question. So it means that you can be called upon at any time to answer a question. So because of that, you have to pay attention. Then also, when I notice that you are not paying attention, I can mention your name and ask you whether you are or repeat what another person has said in class.
Joe Dasana.
For me, sometimes I can just give something to, like if I ask a question and none of them is able, and one person is paying attention and is able to answer, I give something sometimes to the person.
All right, motivation, fantastic. Let's proceed. So we have just finished with what I call the receptive profile dimension. Receptive means receiving. So when you are listening, you're receiving information. The writing skill is what we call the productive profile dimension. Productive, you are producing information. Writing is production. So writing is the activity of putting letters and symbols in written form. Very important. It is an important part of the teaching and learning. A piece of writing must be readable, exact, and as intended by the writer. I am saying this because most of us present reports. If you are an HR officer, you present reports. If you are a lawyer, you have to write some reports. If you are a doctor, you write reports. So the writing skill is critical. It's a critical component of communication that should not be taken for granted. Very important. And you cannot write. Your writing must be readable, and it must be exact as intended by the writer. Very important. We come to speaking skills. Speaking is a productive profile dimension. When you are speaking, you are producing information. Speaking is the act of delivering an address to a public audience. That is speaking. We'll be dealing with that. We'll be dealing with the details of public speaking in the days to come. But this is just what I want to say. It is an important skill required of teachers, facilitators, presenters, and students. Very important. Then we have the reading skills. Reading is a key receptive profile dimension. Receptive means you read to get information, to receive information. Reading is the process of making meaning out of a written linguistic message. If you read wrongly, you will get the wrong information, misinterpret the information, and get the wrong response. Very important. Somebody may write very well, grammatically perfect, but in your reading, if your punctuation and if you don't respect punctuation, you misread what the person has written, and that will give cause for misunderstanding. Reading can be done loudly or silently. Every subject of study requires reading. Please, let me repeat that. Every subject of study requires reading. Even mathematics requires reading. That's why when you are at the university and you are doing mathematics, and someone asks you, they will not ask you they will not ask you the question, are you working mathematics? They'll say, are you reading mathematics? Or when they ask you, what course are you reading? You cannot say you are working mathematics. You say, I'm reading mathematics. Every course requires reading. Even if it's technical skills, it requires reading. Very important. So please try reading this passage.
If three witches, which wishes, which wish.
I love it. Go ahead.
If 3 witches wish 3 wishes, which wish wishes which wish?
This particular passage, if you just read anyhow, it will be difficult for you to get it to get the meaning. Is that if 3 witches wish, if 3 witches wish 3 wishes which you see, you will just be fumbling and you cannot make any meaning out of it. So the reading must be clear to enable you understand what communication is going on. Very important. Now, I want us to pronunciation. It is the process of saying. In reading, you need to pronounce the words very well for anyone who is listening to you to understand. Very important. So it is the process of saying a word or phrase or a syllable. Some words are pronounced by putting their syllable together. Some words do not sound the way they look. So syllable by syllable, syllable pronunciation does not work with them. You know that. Let's see some examples here. Please, can I get some people read this one for me? The first word.
The first word is testament.
Good. Testament. How many syllables are in testament?
3.
3.
Good. Now the second word. Who called the second word?
Ever.
Yes. Who else want to try the same word?
Ewe.
Yes. Who else wants to try? Huh?
Ewe.
The last one. Mention it. Let me hear it again.
Ewe.
And the second one, also mention something.
You.
Yes. Please. The word there is you. It's not ewe.
Okay.
If it is starting with a capital letter, it is the name of a tribe, and that it should go with a pronoun, and that's a proper noun. You call it Ellen. But when it is small, it's you. It's you. Is that clear? Let's go to the third word.
Simomanometer.
Great one there. Yes. Who else want to try? By the way, you is the female sheep. Yes, I think the person who tried, you've done well, is sphygmomanometer, and that is the machine or the instrument used in measuring pressure at the hospital. How about the fourth word?
The fourth word is kotu.
Koto. Yes, who else wants to try the same word? Koto. Okay. That word there is not koto. It's been used, a lot of people, mention it by saying it's koto, but it's katao. Katao. It's one of the words that do not follow, that the syllables, the way it's written, it doesn't follow the same pronunciation. It's katao. And katao is to submit, to submit to something, to surrender or to succumb to something. That's katao. And that is the word. So, we are saying it because the right pronunciation of a word will determine the interpretation that the listener will put on it. How about the last but second word?
Debut.
Fantastic. Debut. You see, why didn't we say debut? Debut. Fantastic. I like that. So that is the word, debut. And debut is your first appearance in a sporting activity, either football or whatever. Your first appearance is called debut, your debut appearance. Good. Then how about the last word?
Lieutenant.
Lieutenant. Good. See, you are putting lieutenant, and there's some F that is there's some spiritual F you have introduced. Meanwhile, there's no F there. Lieutenant, and that's the right pronunciation. So all these words, some of these words do not follow the syllable by syllable pronunciation. Very important. Good. Then we'll move on to this. Reading is beyond mere pronunciation. From what you have said, you have heard. Punctuation marks matter a lot in meaning. Stress and intonations enhance meaning when reading. Very important. Then we come to read and explain the sentences below. Can someone read the first sentence for me?
Why are you surprised?
Great. Why are you surprised? That's the question. How about the second statement?
Why are you surprised?
Wonderful. Why are you surprised? Are they the same?
No, please.
Fantastic. The other one, why are you surprised, is straightforward. Then the second one, why are you surprised? It only demands yes or no. Good. How about the third sentence?
The money he had been stolen.
Who else wants to lie?
The money he had been stolen.
Fantastic. The money he had been stolen. So you have to stress on a particular word to get the meaning. The money he had, the second had will have to stress. The money he had been stolen. If you just read it, the money he had been stolen. You will not get the meaning. But the money he had been stolen. Very important. Then we come to the fourth sentence. Read it out for me.
The problem there is a serious one.
Great one there. The problem there is a serious one. You must stress on the there is. The problem there is a serious one. How about the last but third?
He eating late is a border.
Good. You see the word that is stressed there is he. He eating late is a border. He eating late is a border. If you don't stress the word he and say he eating late is a border, you're not going to say he eating late is a border. How about the last but second?
So it is.
So it is. That's the word. That is the sentence. So it is. The last word is stress. There is. So it is. It's a question. How about the last one?
So it is.
So it is. You see that? That's it. So until the intonations and the stresses give different meaning to the sentence you construct. These are all important. Please take note. We are talking about facilitators, presenters, teachers, and all that. Because if the communication is not well structured, your listeners or your participants will get a different meaning from what you say. Then we come to forms of communication. We have communication has forms. We have intentional and unintentional communication. Intentional communication is you preparing a message that you deliberately want the participants or the hearers or the listeners to grasp, and you communicate that. It's called intentional communication. We also have what we call unintentional communication. The unintentional communication is you say certain things that you didn't intend to communicate, and yet it's being understood by the participant or the listeners as such. It's unintentional. That's unintentional. For instance, you can have a decent-minded person, a decent-minded lady, who may dress in a way that will give an unintentional communication to a young man. Then the young man, based on that interpretation of the way the lady has dressed, which is not intended in a way, anyway, then approaches the lady. And when you begin to advance, the lady becomes surprised that you will approach her and be talking this way. But the young man has simply misunderstood your unintentional communication. Then we have what we call general or technical communication. General communication is the kind of communication that you give out that is meant for everyone in general, the mass. You communicate in a way that is understood by everyone hearing or listening to you. Then we also have what we call technical communication. Technical communication is a common form of communication, a message that is sent out that is meant to be understood by people of a particular professional or technical background. For instance, when the HRs meet and they are speaking using certain jargons, the teacher may not be able to understand. When the teachers also meet and they begin to speak using certain jargons like substance, strands, and the indicators and all that, the nurse will not understand. The nurse will be put at sea. When the nurses also meet and they're speaking their jargon, professional jargon, and they begin to mention certain technical terms in their profession, the teachers will also be lost. That is what we mean by technical communication. We also have formal communication and informal. The formal communication is a kind of communication that you give out passing, using formal structure. For instance, if you are a teacher and you want to ask for permission to travel to Accra, you will have to communicate. You have to communicate formally to your head. That's formal communication. Communicate formally to your head or your CISO or the director. Now, informal communication has to do with the fact that, I have to do with the issue of you just sitting under your staff common room, or sitting in your staff common room or your staff common tree, and then you begin to share jokes and share, your experiences over the weekend and all that. That is informal form of communication. Then we have external communication and internal. External communication is the communication that is going outside the parameters of your organization or your outfit or your office. That's external. For instance, if you're in HR, you have an issue, you want to communicate to the national, you write to your regional director, to the national. That is external. That is external. If you are communicating within the HR department, then you are writing a memo to your HR, your boss, your HR manager. That is internal. Please, I am stressing on all these things because in this era of social media proliferation, it is not professional, it's not ethical for you to give out, to spread out an information that's supposed to be meant for internal consumption. Because you have a problem with your head or your CISO or your director or your HR or your whatever, your information that's meant for internal consumption, you spread it out there for everyone to see. So you want to expose your boss. That is unethical, that is not professional, and you can be penalized seriously for that. Very important. Then we have interpersonal and intrapersonal form of communication. Interpersonal communication has to do with communication one-on-one. I face you, I will be meeting physically, I speak to you, you respond, and we exchange. That's interpersonal communication. We also have what we call intrapersonal communication. Intrapersonal communication is a form of communication where the communicator communicates to himself or herself. There are some people, they go for a meeting, they will never contribute anything. But after the meeting is finished and they are going home, they are on their motorbike or on their car, or they are talking to themselves. This meeting, this guy, what did you say? What did you raise that point? Meanwhile, he's here working alone, talking to himself. We also call it speaking to the spirit. You're not speaking to anybody physically, you're speaking to a spirit. So we call it intrapersonal form of communication. That is it. Then we have models of communication. I will just take you through those models. We have the transactional model of communication. Yeah, the transactional model. The transactional model of communication, as the word denotes, is a form of communication that demands some exchange of ideas. The communicator or the sender at the same time becomes a receiver. You send a message to somebody, let's say your participant listens and give you a feedback. So at one point you are the sender and another point you are the receiver of the information. That is the kind of exchange communication we are supposed to have when we're doing facilitation, when we're doing teaching, when we're doing presentation. I like the way some people were giving out the methods and strategies they deploy to capture and sustain the attention of their participants. Then you ask questions and they give you feedback. That is the kind of thing we call transactional model of communication. You don't communicate, you communicate to them, they also communicate to you, and you begin to get the sense and the feedback. So that will enhance your forward communication. Very important. Then we also have what we call interactional communication. The interactional communication model is just like the transactional model. The difference is that the interactional communication, the purpose and the main goal of the interactional communication is to enhance interaction as the name denotes. So if you look at the models are the same. The sender becomes the receiver at the same time from both sides. Then we have what we call the horizontal model of communication. The horizontal model is also called the lateral model of communication. It happens between people at the same level in the hierarchy, that are colleagues or peers. For instance, if you are both, let's say you are teachers on the same staff. When a teacher on the same staff, two teachers on the same staff are communicating, we call it a horizontal form of communication. Or you are all managers, line managers, and you are communicating. Let's say the operational manager is communicating with human resource manager. That is horizontal. People of the same rank are communicating between themselves. It's called horizontal form of communication. Good. And then it can be done in both formal and informal ways. Very important. Then we have this is the model of the horizontal form of communication. We have department managers communicating with department managers. It's called horizontal. It's also called lateral form of communication. Then we have the linear model. The linear model of communication is the one-way process of communication, where this model gives importance to the communicator and his or her message. The element of feedback is absent and is not included in this form of communication. This model has helped to improve the understanding of communication among social scientists engaged in communication theories. They come out with a communication theory and also I only send it out without getting feedback from anybody. This model was useful in political communication, propaganda, and political symbolism. The politicians, when they come around, they assume that sense of importance to themselves, and they only assume that what you want, they know what you want. So they communicate that to you directly without getting the feedback regarding what your interests are. So that's why they go on the radio station and begin to tell you that we'll bring you a transformer. We'll bring you the boreholes. Because they don't expect any feedback from you when they're making such political communication, because that's called the propaganda. Propaganda doesn't require any feedback. The model also assumes the communicator wishes to influence the receiver and therefore sees communication as a persuasive process. So the linear form of communication, it is designed and executed with the intention of influencing, persuading, and then getting people to buy into an idea, your political ideology or social ideology. Very important. But this is the model. You see the sender encode, now the channel, and it goes straight, no feedback to the sender. And that is called linear model of communication. Now, once you see some barriers of communication, we have noise, inappropriate medium, assumptions and misconceptions, emotions, language differences, poor learning skills, detractions, and cultural differences. Let us now look at what I call the ABCDF of communication. This is critical. The A stands for accuracy and audience. In your communication, you make sure that whatever communication message you send out is accurate. And you also consider the audience before your presentation or your communication. You consider the audience. Very important. Number two, the B stands for brevity. Please, as much as possible, if you are presenting something significant to an audience, you make sure that you actually summarize it and make it so brief. Brevity is important in communication. If you dilute the significance of your message with a lot of illustrations to the extent that the essence is lost in the midst of the illustrations, you will not get the attention of the participants in a short while. That is very important. I've been saying this. Every effective communicator or communication piece is like a miniskirt. Let me repeat that. I said every effective speaker must be like a miniskirt. Every effective communication piece must be like a miniskirt. It must be long enough to cover the subject matter, but short enough to arouse the interest of the participants. Now, and that's what basically miniskirts do. The essence of miniskirts is to is to make sure that the vital parts are covered, but it's long enough to cover the vital parts, but short enough to arouse the interest of onlookers. And if you are a good speaker, you must incorporate this into your speech. You don't go on a speech, you don't go on speaking until all the participants want to walk away. Please, it's a disaster. You don't go on speaking and all the participants are praying that you should finish in time. You have to raise their suspense, arouse their interest. When you enriches the peak of their interest, you keep them there and then stop, and then you cut off. And when that happens, the participants are normally all the time looking forward because they are aroused their interest, they are waiting for more, and then you keep them in suspense by saying, we shall meet the next time and continue. So if you do this to your class, the children you don't end the class in a manner that makes it as if your presentation is complete and that is all. What happens is that you begin, arouse their interest, suspend it, and keep them in suspense, and you close the presentation in a way that will make them continue to desire to have you again come back to teach them, come back to do a presentation, come back when they hear that you are speaking on this platform. Say, this guy, I would like to. There was something he actually kept me in suspense. I've been waiting to have the continuation, and they will come. That's very important. Number two, clarity is important. Clarity, content, and context of the presentation are all critical. Then delivery style. The D stands for delivery style. Your style of delivery must be such that you must raise. There must be time you raise your voice. There must be time you come down. You come down in a very in a very low tone and firm in whatever you do. Then the E stands for execution and exciting. You must make your presentation so exciting by not through the execution you go through. And the F stands for feedback. Nowadays we call it feed forward. Because when you receive the feedback helps you to feed them forward, to make the amend, make the adjustment, and do a better job next time. We call it feeding forward. Now, the 7 C's of communication. The 7 C's of communication, we have credibility. The relevance of credibility is that it builds trust. 2, courtesy improves relationship. Clarity makes easy. Correctness builds confidence. Consistency in your presentation introduces stability. Concreteness reinforces confidence. And conciseness saves time. So please, these 7 C's are important. We must inject them into our communication and presentation skills, because we need to be credible, and the credibility of the presenter speaks volumes. That's where character is important in communication. Your character may be louder than your words, and that's why every communication piece, the fullest understanding of every communication piece is analyzed to the core by asking who said what, and they will judge you by what you say, by your character. That's very important. So if the person communicating is viewed by the participant not to be credible, you may be presenting the most powerful, the most enthusiastic, the most persuasive presentation, inspirational. But when they dig into your life and begin to know you and know your character to be at variance with what you communicate, the interpretation is given a different twist. Very important. Then the 4 S of communication. We have shortness, and the shortness the relevance of shortness is to economize. Simplicity, the relevance of simplicity is to impress. Sincerity The relevance of sincerity is to convince and then strength. And the importance of strength in communication is to appeal. Appeal. Very important. The use of anecdotes in your facilitation. Anecdotes are short stories you use to arouse the interest of the participants in your as you introduce them to a particular topic. They are called anecdotes. So in your as part of your presentation skills, learn a lot of anecdotes, short stories that you can use, relevant stories you can use to arouse the interest of your participants, and it's where you can capture their attention and sustain their attention throughout your presentation. Well, we shall be dealing with all that. Strategies for effective communication in presentations, in every presentation or classroom situation. Number one, create a safe learning environment with supportive relationship. Please, with this one, particularly, I want to emphasize this one as far as the teachers and even those of us who are into professional facilitation and presentations. We have a responsibility to protect any of our participants from humiliation by other participants. For instance, if you ask a question in the classroom or in your presentation, and a participant answers the question and probably answers it wrongly, you don't make mockery of the participant who volunteers an answer. You don't do that. When you do that, you can damage that particular participant for life. They will never initiate any answer when you ask them. They will not like to contribute during your presentation. So you have a responsibility to protect their integrity, protect them from humiliation and embarrassment. That's what I mean. Then two, teamwork, body language, active listening, feedback, sense of humor, technical skills, and then you need to declare. In summary, ladies and gentlemen, the process of communication involves a series of stages. An idea arises in the mind of the sender, which he wants to share. The sender chooses some medium or channel to put across the message. The receiver receives the message. The receiver decodes, absorbs, understands, interprets the message, and the receiver sends a feedback on his as a form of response. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to end here by saying thank you for your attention. Thank you for your cooperation. We are grateful that this is the beginning of a series of talks we shall be receiving for this particular course. And I'm glad I have enjoyed your cooperation so far. God bless you and keep you strong. Thank you very much.